Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In this week's video we are continuing to explore the Iron Ring of castles built around North Wales by King Edward I. In this video you'll have the chance to walk the remains of one of only 3 Edwardian castles in the north east of Wales and explore the true extent of the violence that consumed the area during the Welsh wars of the 13th and the 14th century. From the outset you might not think that this fortress is impressive, but just wait until you enter through the gates and experience the commanding views over the Vale of Llywelyn and beyond. So join us here at Denbigh Castle. The name Denbigh in Welsh comes from Little Fortress and has been on record since the 11th century. The medieval walled town very much developed around the building of the castle. Denbigh was amongst the richest towns in Elizabethan Wales and was a powerhouse of culture and enterprise. Like its sister castle at Conwy, it was a fortress that incorporated a planned town, walled and largely exclusive to English immigrants, at least initially. Upon entering the site you were met with the mighty and highly elaborate gatehouse, built sometime in 1286, which shows similarities with the mighty castle of Carnarvon, as does the Red Tower directly to the west of the entrance. The gatehouse still has the remains of a statue in a decorated niche directly over the entrance, and this is probably an image of Edward II and mirrors such decorations again at Carnarvon. We also see changes in the type of stone that's used, from limestone to the distinctive red sandstone. The main element of the castle was a powerful gate complex called the Great Gate, which we are now walking through. It consisted of an unusual arrangement of 3 polygonal towers arranged in the form of a triangle, between which a passage was made, headed by a shore foregate from the town side. The gate was built with decorative wall stripes in various colours, which were probably supposed to symbolise the royal authority of Edward I. The design is quite unique, and it was equipped to be extremely defensive too. The passageway leading through it is peppered with murder holes or chutes, down which defendants could pour boiling oil or other nasties. The Great Gate was defended by a ditch, around 9.1 metres wide, with a drawbridge located in the foregate and arrow slits directed outside and placed inside the gate passage. This included 2 located in the ceiling, openable by the outside doors, and with 2 portcullises. After being able to pass through these protections, a central hall was reached, surrounded by the 3 towers. From the central hall indirectly directed a passage to the inner courtyard, and it was secured by another 3rd portcullis, and the door closed outside by a wooden bar. The mechanism that operated the portcullises was in the rooms on the 1st floor, which also served as a link between the towers. The system of connections and passages provided quick access to the mechanism of the portcullises. Its internal defensive positions and the upper gallery was protected by the battlements at the top of the gate. The daily operation of the castle crew were also secured. Each of those towers were equipped with latrines and illuminated by narrow slit holes. The corridor in the thickness of the curtain wall also provided connection to the nearest Great Kitchen Tower. Denbigh was built as part of Edward I's 13th century campaign against the Welsh, and it was constructed by Henry de Lacy, one of the King's chief commanders. It was by no means the first stronghold to occupy this strategic site. As if to emphasise its English dominance, the castle was built over the stronghold of Dafydd ap Gruffudd, the Welsh leader who was crushed by Edward in 1282. A short flight of medieval stairways leads us up to the gatehouse's 2nd floors and onto the wall walk, that has been preserved for people to enjoy. The wall walk is now usable by modern explorers to overlook the kitchen tower, as well as to experience more of the wonderful views of the surrounding countryside and the fine castle. High atop the curtain wall, we can appreciate the value of this site to the castle's medieval builders, for any unusual movement certainly would have been noticed. I have to say, at this point of exploring, these were some of my favourite views, especially having the chance for an aerial view of the gatehouse entrance and seeing what the garrison of the castle would have to observe for any unwanted guests, and always be ready for action at any point in time. Particularly in this area, you can see a small tower that is the only reminder of the medieval chapel that once offered services to the castle and to the town of Denbigh. Better known as St Hilary's, the chapel stood almost midway between the castle gatehouse and the northernmost face of the town's walling. Sadly, only the fine fortified tower survived the demolition efforts of 1923. Not only do you get to view the gatehouse on a completely different level and see the expanse of the area, and in the distance the beautiful mountain ranges, you're able to peek inside the kitchen tower, a tower that is essential for this castle and any castle ever built. It was needed to feed the Lord, his family, his guests, soldiers and servants. Here at Denbigh, life in the kitchen would have been very organised. Similar to a modern day restaurant, there was always a chain of command. Although in the Middle Ages only men would do the cooking, by using the huge open fires and ovens roasting the meats. Looking down, you're able to spot the large chimney flue. The dishes served here were lavish dishes of meat, fish, vegetables, game and yummy, sugary sweet desserts. A view up top gives us a great overview of the Great Hall, now completely ruinous, but you can work out the stoned remains down below, conveniently placed next to the kitchen and the white tower that is to the left of it. Now making our way across the vast green inner bailey, we spot the well of the castle. As a visitor, I always find it quite fascinating to have a look just how deep some of the wells get, and this one here is quite impressive at 15 metres deep. It's said that it was here that Edmund de Lacy, the eldest son of the castle's builder Henry de Lacy, was reputed to have tragically fallen to his death and drowned in the castle well. Leading from the kitchen tower are the foundations of the Great Hall. Both a buttery and pantry stood against the face of a great kitchen tower, and from them a screen's passage to the hall. Inside this great hall, of course, was where most of the main meals were eaten. Where you sat inside the hall reflected on your importance inside of the walls. At the top of the table sat the Lord and his family, possibly even his most trusted nobles. Then the further away you sat from the top table meant the lower in rank or influence you would have been, not to mention the poorer quality in food you were given. Interestingly, inside this hall, many of the less important people would have slept in here too. One of the final buildings that we find ourselves visiting is that of the oddly named Green Chambers, built against the southern stretch of the East Curtain Wall and possibly dating to around the mid-14th century. The name alludes to the use of a certain type of stone that was used inside this chamber, which had a greenish tinge to it. Making our way down the stairs, as the actual chamber and the floor is completely gone, we walk inside the basement. The steps are reached from the courtyard into two rather sizable vaulted rooms. Above were the Green Chambers, which were the private apartments of the ruling lord. Of course, you would expect, like much other castle interiors, that it would have been luxuriously furnished with only the very best. The apartments would be used for meetings, for eating, sleeping and for private time away from the daily working of the castle. The castle cellars would be the storage of all of the exciting and important delicacies that the lord and his family would request. Things like salted and smoked meat, imported wines and ales, sugar, salt and spices that would all be kept here. Some of the things to note around the cellar is the elaborate carved corbels on some of the stonework here. The camera doesn't do them justice, but they are really impressive, especially the lion's mask, really highlighting just how grand and lavish Denbigh was decorated. Spanned by a very steep modern footbridge are the remains of the deep pits and footings of the medieval drawbridge. The bridge slopes unsafely to the ruined postern gate, the lowest gateway into the castle. Anyone passing through this gateway from outside of the castle walls were forced to turn abruptly to the left when seeking access. The unusual plan was intended to confuse the enemy soldiers, whose disorientation would expose them to the garrison's firepower. Today we are instantly and almost unavoidably hurled down the incline towards these creatively constructed defences. Despite having played second fiddle all of its life, Denbigh is still an incredibly interesting ruin to visit. It also affords brilliant views of the surrounding countryside when you've climbed atop its rocky perch. Denbigh also has quite the reputation of being the most haunted castle in North Wales, so regardless of whether you believe in ghosts or not, that claim to fame is worthy of a visit to make your own mind up. What this place does have is the appearance of something sinister and enchanting at the same time. So that's it for this week, and we really hope that you've enjoyed our visit to Denbigh Castle. If you have, please be sure to hit that like button, click the subscribe button to never miss another video, and be sure to check out our links in the description below to further support us in making more content like this for you to enjoy. We want to say a big thank you to our PIN family here on the channel as members, and to our Patreons. So we'll see you in the next one. Till next time.